Hard to believe it's already been a year since I started this channel. Not as hard to believe as the fact that people actually watch this, but debating quality is not what I'm here for. For my first YouTube anniversary, I've decided to commemorate the occasion, if you can call it that, by revealing a new feature on my channel, reviews. What better way to begin than with a look at the very first game I played for you, Super Paper Mario. Released on the Nintendo Wii in 2007 by Intelligent Systems, Super Paper Mario stretched the limits of just what an RPG could be by almost entirely removing the turn-based battles in favor of platforming, while keeping intact everything that made the trilogy what it was up to that point. However, it received some backlash from some that claim they changed the formula too much. Should the developers have played it safe, or does the risk pay off? Let's find out. I'll be ranking the game in 6 categories that add up to a maximum of 55. Keep in mind that some things can be subjective, and this entire review is my personal opinion. If that's not your thing, then that's cool, but if it is, then we'll get along just fine. But enough pointless rabble, onto the review. The Paper Mario series began on the Nintendo 64 in the year 2000, in Japan at least, as a pseudo-sequel to the masterpiece known as Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. As expected from RPGs, it was a turn-based role-playing game with level-ups, special moves, and fights that didn't include all of your characters for no remotely explained reason. 3 years later, the GameCube gained a sequel, The Thousand-Year Door, and while it made some small gameplay changes here and there, it was still the same game. It wasn't until 4 years later that the folks at Intelligent Systems did a heel-face turn and switched everything around. Turn-based battles are gone and replaced with more jumping and running. This was one of the complaints people had, saying it was too different. But really, if you look closer, the fundamentals are still there, just presented differently. Real-time battles are pretty much the only actual gameplay change, and it forces you to keep on your feet, something that I welcome. One interesting aspect of this game is that the entire thing is a throwback to retro platformers from the days of 2 dimensions. Players can move left and right, jump, and interact with whoever or whatever they find in the worlds they explore. It even divides the game into 8 worlds with 4 levels. Sound familiar? But the main gimmick is the big selling point. It's simple but effective. What if you took a 2D side-scroller and literally just added a 3rd dimension? Super Paper Mario features the ability to flip between 2D and 3D at will, exposing a whole new side of familiar places, filled with hidden items, pipes, and several buttloads of coins in what would appear to be just a normal room. As for the controls themselves, the game uses the Wiimote by itself. This right here is my big problem. Take a look at the Wiimote and compare it to the N64 controller. Notice something? I'll give you a minute. The 64 had a joystick, which was designed for moving in 3 dimensions. The D-pad was not, and it shows in spades here. While for the most part the game plays pretty smoothly and is easy to pick up, trying to maneuver when flipped feels very clunky, and at times is downright annoying. It's not a good sign when the big selling point for your game just feels wrong. Mario is the one that handles flipping, while others have their own gimmicks. Yep, you get 4 different characters here. Joining the titular plumber is the perpetual prize Peach, with her apparently indestructible parasol, bad guy with a heart of gold Bowser in all his fire-breathing goodness, and even Luigi gets off his ass to lend a hand with a mean super jump. Stylish moves make a comeback from Thousand-Year Door as well, this time done in mid-air after stomping an enemy by flicking the remote. Doing so gives you a point bonus, giving you faster level-ups, but doing it right can be a bit finicky at times. It does work well enough, but not perfectly. However, there's one thing that the Wiimote does well, and that is controlling your friendly pixel ally, Tippy. Point the remote at the screen to learn information about your surroundings, enemies, and people. While this could be imitated on the GameCube, as it was originally intended to be released for, it's a lot like the difference between the Wii and PlayStation versions of Okami. It just feels more natural. However, the game still could have majorly benefited from using the nunchuck and having Tippy activated by a button command. But, as a whole, the gameplay is solid and does its job. Not spectacularly, but if nothing else, the nostalgia of playing an old-school NES game will come through. The bright and happy visuals we've come to expect from Nintendo's flagship franchise are still intact, and this game cranks the creativity up to 11 by giving each of the 8 chapters their own art style, whether it's the blocky bitlands, the familiar backgrounds of the land of Kragnons, or the infinite reaches of outer space. It really drives the point home of each world being in its own dimension, and every one of them is detailed and well thought out. This isn't limited to the landscape. The denizens are just as varied in both appearance and personality. Even though most of the time you were just doing the same old thing, you could always look forward to something new. This game shows that even black and white can be interesting in the right hands, and some moments are downright epic, even when not being entirely serious. The Mario series as a whole boasts a soundtrack that's unsurpassed in terms of memorable tunes, and this game brings several more to the table. Aside from having a very unique style, the music suits the game perfectly, from simple atmospheres to bombastic bosses to moments where you almost want to cry. Also, seeing as the game is one big homage, you'll even hear some songs you've heard before, gloriously remixed with a special energy to it that just makes you smile. There's even songs that feature prominently 8-bit sounds. That's class. Sure, we could fully orchestrate the soundtrack, but we don't need that. This is Mario, bitches! Let's retro this mother up! Some games have the honor of letting their music speak for them. Super Paper Mario is one of those games. Here's where we get to the meat of it all. This is one of the things most commonly praised about this game, and rightfully so. Even before it starts, you get slapped in the face by a giant WTF moment. Princess Peach is marrying Bowser. Fanfic writers, start your engines! But more importantly, we get introduced to our antagonist, Count Bleck, who has the rather strange habit of talking in third person. He also has the habit of destroying the universe and laughing like his lung is about to fly out of his throat. Along with his classy top hat, Bleck is joined by his assistant, Nastasia, however the hell you pronounce it, the Herculean dumbass O-Chunks, Dementia, who is so campy that even Pegasus is jealous, and the shape-shifting Mimi, who's just a straight-up pain in the ass. This gang of misfits and their army, or rather, Bowser's brainwashed army, is looking to destroy all known dimensions and create a new world without sadness. Bit ironic to do so with black magic and interdimensional terrorism, but that's beside the point. With Peach, Luigi, and even Bowser taken by Count Bleck, it's up to Mario and his new friend Tippy to find the 7 missing pure hearts, return them to the dimensional hub world of Flipside, and stop the prophecy foretold by the Dark Prognosticus. Along the way, he travels through oceans, across planets, and even to the underworld to retrieve this installment's plot coupons, all the while collecting pixels for special abilities and fending off hordes of annoying enemies. Goddamn Hammer Bros. I won't go too far into detail for the sake of those that aren't familiar with the story and don't want it spoiled, but I can still talk about it a little. The main plot is a story as old as time. The Shakespearean romance of 2 lovers is unexpectedly cut short, just as they thought they would be together forever. You could argue that it's a really cliché story, and it kind of is, but you gotta hand it to them. They pull it off wonderfully. Despite how predictable it can be at times, I can guarantee at least a few surprises, and even when you, the player, know exactly what's going on, part of you still enjoys the moment of realization from the characters themselves. The plot is paced very smoothly, you never feel overwhelmed by what's going on, and the characters develop over time simply by seeing them talk to each other. Even when they're just sitting around seemingly wasting time, it's never pointless. To put in perspective just what this game does for character development, listen to this. Princess Peach not only serves as the obligatory damsel in distress for only a very small portion of the game, but she goes above and beyond previous appearances by nutting up and serving as the single best playable character. If it weren't for situations where you need to change characters, you would have no reason to. She can jump the farthest, hovers, handles well, and ducking whips out the universe's strongest umbrella to block any and all attacks, even from below. No idea how that's supposed to work, but it does. Apparently. Something well worth noting is that the Paper Mario series in general is a bit darker than the standard fare, but this one surpasses them all. And when something like this can be topped, that's saying something. Sure, the Shadow Queen wanted to take over the world, but did she want to destroy the entire universe in all dimensions? Nope. This guy does, though. That's what happens when someone powerful goes emo. But it's not just a darker and edgier story. The game drops hints every now and then, mostly between chapters, that point you toward the true nature of what's going on, and more importantly, why. And the way the game lets you become attached to its very memorable and likable cast. Even Mimi has her moments. You want to see everything work out. The emotional power behind the game's climax is so strong that even knowing how cliché and played out the scenario is, it still manages to get through. That's impressive. By far, one of the best things about this game is its humor. It doesn't just tell some bad one-liners every now and then. Practically the entire game is making fun of something. They even go meta in a few cases and directly target the competition, and even the fans. But more than that, they make fun of themselves and everything the Mario series has been up to that point. And with such a phenomenal cast, they take plenty jabs at each other as well. There are so many opportunities for comedy in this game, and they take advantage of them all in style. Even when the game is being serious, it never takes itself too seriously. Super Paper Mario has plenty to offer in terms of extra content, with things like mini-games and treasure hunting, but some would argue that this is more due to the fact that they're more time-consuming than anything, and very punishing at times. The Pit of 100 Trials returns, but this time, there's 2. And the second one has to be completed twice before you even get a reward for it. It certainly isn't impossible, but whether it's worth your time is open to debate. One thing that is worth your time, however, is the Duel of 100, which is pretty much a third pit, but this one is more like the original from Thousand Year Door. You fight one enemy at a time in groups of 25, leading up to a boss that could curb stomp you in a few seconds if you aren't careful, making him considerably tougher than the actual final boss. This is appropriate though, as you only have access to it after finishing the main game. While it may seem like this was just thrown in, such is not the case. This is where the game's humor is featured most prominently, with every round featuring an original speech from your opponent, and some of them are simply hilarious. On top of that, the prize isn't half bad either. If you've done everything else and still want more, then definitely give these features a try. There's an undeniable charm to this game, one that not many others can say they have. No matter how many times I play this game, I stick with it to the end and enjoy just about every minute of it. The problems I mentioned earlier don't even hold it back that much. They're more like minor annoyances. There's a steady difficulty curve for the main story, so it's rare that you'll find an enemy out of your league, and times that there are, it's probably user error. Like those goddamn Hammer Bros! I hate them. Anyway. This game as a whole is an incredible experience. Whether it's the pleasing visuals, the excellent music, or the engaging story that gets you, Super Paper Mario stands tall as one of the best games on the Wii. In fact, I'd argue one of the best games Nintendo has released in years. It has plenty of everything, and while it's not perfect, I can guarantee it will put a smile on your face, maybe even tug at your heartstrings. It's a must-try for Nintendo fans everywhere. If you've passed up this game before, then at least give it a try. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.